Hi guys, I'm Yasmin Gamboa and I'm back with another video. You are watching Lukewarm to Jesus. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about being unequally yoked with your family. So a lot of times there are believers who were raised believing in Jesus, their family believing in Jesus, and it was a generational blessing that's been passed down. Just knowing God your whole life and your bloodline has known God and has known the truth and walked in the truth. And then there's other believers who family members were not believers. They were in the world. They were drinking, they were smoking, they were partying, they were sinning, fornicating, adulterers. And instead of passing down the generational blessings, they passed down generational curses. Now, when that person finds Christ and realizes the truth, that's the person who becomes separated from their family because there's so many demons attached to family members through the curses, because nobody believed in Jesus. Basically, when you believe in Jesus, the curses, you're able to cast the curses out because somebody has to pay the price for the atonement. And Jesus paid the price for all sins, all atonements. But if you don't believe in Jesus, somebody in the bloodline has to pay the price. And that's why curses get passed down. And if you are a believer and the curses are going to pass down, it's just because you're not attacking it, you're not handling it. So somebody has to pay the price for the sin. It's either going to be you, it's going to be your kids, it's going to be your grandkids, or it's going to be Jesus because you believe in Jesus. Okay? So if you read the Bible, which you should, there's plenty of people who God had to separate from their family because their family wasn't walking in the way that they should have. Let's start with Abram, which is Abraham. His family was a part of that generation where they were worshiping the Nephilim and they were worshiping the fallen gods. There was so much idol worship, and God set him apart. He said, "You're no longer going to be a Samaritan. You are going to be a Hebrew. You're going to be Israel." So that's the bloodline. You're going to be Hebrew, basically. Abram was the first Hebrew. Why? Because his family members were so wicked. They were idol worshippers. They bowed down to other gods. They were not aligned with Christ, right? They were not aligned with the way that God wanted the world to be. And all of that happens because of the fall with Eve listening to the serpent and Adam listening to Eve, right? But Abram was the first person that had to separate himself from his family. He was able to take Job with him, which was his brother-in-law, and they were sent on to another land. Why? Because when you are called by God and chosen by God, and you choose God, you are now set apart. You can no longer be around the people and the things that do things that are not of Christ. You understand? And another example of this in the Bible is when Joseph, God called him at a young age, and he knew God gave him dreams, and he was like, okay, oh, this is going to be me. I'm going to be okay. So Joseph's first dreams, he see himself binding sheaves in the field. His brother's sheaves circle around his own and they bow low to the ground. In his second dream, Joseph sees the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowing down to him. So the reason why his family was mad because they were able to interpret the dreams, and they're like, why are we bowing down to you? Why are you so special that this is what happened to you? So, one, you should not even tell. If your family is a family of unbelievers, one, you should not even tell them your dreams. You should not tell them what God says is going to happen for your life. Don't speak it, because the jealousy that they'll have, because it's not them receiving those blessings. Look what they did to Joseph. They sent them out into slavery, and he ended up in jail and all these things, but it still helped in his purpose of life. And that's the thing what the enemy does. The enemy loves to make what your life is supposed to be. He likes to make that journey so long, but God is going to use what the enemy meant for harm for his greater good. Okay? So, why am I saying this? A lot of times, new believers, your family, they're unbelievers, and you are so attached, which is natural. We want our moms and our sisters and our brothers and our fathers to be believers. We want them to know the truth and walk in the truth. But the Bible says, don't have any sympathy for the wicked. And it's hard to comprehend that, wow, is my family wicked? Well, they're worshiping other gods. They're believing in tarot cards and crystals. They're doing these things that's not of Christ. So they're go in that category of what wickedness is in the Bible. Okay? So when you are the person that's changing everything, you recognize the patterns. You see what's wrong with your bloodline. Everybody else accepts like what's going on, but you're like, I'm trying to change this. How do y'all not see what's going on? How are y'all not um, mad that like these curses affect their bloodline? But they're so I think they're just so consumed with the human experience, and they just accept what it is that they probably don't think on that deeper level, or they do, but they just don't know how to figure it out. If for some reason non-believers love to bash Jesus, so they never will go for him for the answer to be healed and to get deeper revelation, right? So, um, people in your bloodline, they're okay with living in a cursed land, like a city with all this violence and murder and theft and carjackings, and they accept poverty, they accept defeat, they accepted the curses that's on the bloodline, right? But somebody in the bloodline has to be the repairer of the breach. Somebody has to be the one that's going to repair this foundation. And that's you. You're the repairer of the breach. That person that's called to heal the bloodline, the Bible says you are the repairer of the breach. What does that mean? That means you're the one that's going to cast out these demons. You're the one that's going to break the curses. And you have to accept that you have to separate. In so many ways, you're set apart in the Bible. Like as a Christian, of course, you're set apart. You're no longer doing the things you used to do that were sins. But sometimes you physically have to set yourself apart because the more you grow in the direction of Christ, the more the people that you know are trying to set you back because unknowingly they're working for the enemy because they don't know. Like the Bible says, you wrestle not against flesh and blood. So this is not a disagreement between you and your family. This is a disagreement between you and the spirits inside of them. And a lot of times we're so focused on, oh my goodness, this is this family member. I cannot believe they did this. I cannot believe they said this. It's not them, it's the spirit. But they have no awareness of the spirit. And that's another thing. It's like when you are so in the world, no matter how much knowledge you get, you think, oh my goodness, I'm so smart. You're not smart until you have the biblical knowledge because God reveals so much to you that the truth is undeniable. So for me right now, um, I just found out that my mom is not a believer. You know, how did you just find this out? Because I remember when I was a kid, my mom would read her women's study Bible. She was walking with Christ. She read her. She had already had her kids before she got married, but she was like, told my dad, "Listen, I'm getting baptized, and we're not going to fornicate, and we're going to get married." My mom got baptized. They got married. I remember my mom praying so hard to God for a house. God gave her a house. So in my mind, I thought my mom was a believer, but at some point she just strayed, and recently she revealed to me that she wasn't a believer. Okay, so how does that affect me? Well, one, I didn't know the full picture, but God was already revealing some things to me behind the scenes. But I feel like as a believer, you should always walk in love. Don't just go quote turkey cutting people off unless God has called you to do that. I think if they're obviously doing witchcraft, God is going to probably tell you to cut them off. And I know this because my mother-in-law is a witch, and God had me let her babysit my baby and had me. We had lived with them for like 2 months, 3 months. when we moved to a new state because they was like, "Oh, come." But this is before I knew she was like a full blown witch. Um, but God said He did that so that way, one, she could be around a believer to like see how we was living, so she can be saved. He basically was giving her chances to like turn from her wicked ways. But when she would not turn and she just would not give up, God said, "Okay, cut her off." So I think those are like the extreme, like somebody's a witch. I think if your family members are not practicing witchcraft, I think that you should just don't tell them your plans. Don't tell them your dreams, your literal dreams that you have, and your dreams of like your goals and don't tell them what the will of God is for your life. Like you just have to move in silence because you would think that because they're your flesh and blood that they want the best for you. But as you can see in the story of Joseph, that was his brother, that was his father. His father didn't sell him off, but his father was offended by the dreams, and his brothers were so mad that they literally sold him off. They were literally so mad. And I don't even think that they were remorseful, even when they had to go to Egypt to get some bread because of the famine. Because when their father died, they still was like trying to lie and say, ah, what was the lie that they tried to say? They had lied and they said, I can't think of it right now. But anyway, they were not remorseful. A lot of times when you're a good person, you're like, how can this person do this? How can they do that? The thing is, just because you wouldn't do that, don't mean other people wouldn't do that. When you become a believer, you kind of got to stop being so naive. You gotta really stand in boldness, stand with your feet planted, your back upright, straight, and you gotta have some type of strength. Because if you're weak and you're gonna let people push you which way, then you're going to go through a battle because God is going to be trying to reveal people characteristics or if they're into witchcraft, and you're gonna be like, no, not that, because that's what I did with my mother-in-law when God revealed to me that she was really a witch. I was like, no. He was like, girl, she the one who got you the tarot cards and the crystals, and she has an altar at her door in her house. It's like the signs was right there. The signs were there. But we don't want to believe that about people. But you have to trust what God is revealing to you. Trust what God tells you. And again, that doesn't mean just cut your family off. But like, I'm a Christian. I'm done with you. I think that will turn people off from being to. That will turn people off from coming to Christ because they're like Christians are so judgmental. It's just we just know the truth and it could come off as judgmental. But I think you know, be kind and loving, and if God say be done with them, be done with them. But I feel like it's a battle that no people don't really talk about because whenever I see Christian like families, they're like whole family, their mom, their grandma, their great grandma, like they've been Christian. Whereas some other like new believers are like, well, my mom wasn't a believer. This person wasn't. My dad wasn't a believer. My grandma wasn't a believer. So you're fighting a different battle that's not really talked about. Okay, so I'm Yasmin Gamble. You're watching Luke to Jesus, and I will see you in another video. Bye.